Welcome to Stool Talk. So today on Stool Talk, we have with us Bill Granberry, Toledo, Ohio top athlete during his time. A real great basketball player that I heard a lot of like about seeing the pictures, and it was all because of the athletes of the 70s and 80s page. I kept seeing it. And then my wife said that she knew who this person was. And I'm like, how you know somebody that's on the sports thing? So I did my research, started talking to different people, and they said, yeah, he was an amazing basketball player, like dominated offense and defensively. So we happy to have you. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Great. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, you so humble too as well, and a lot of people I've been talking to, a lot of athletes, you guys are more humble versus the newer athletes that yeah, I did this, I averaged this. You barely got to talk to three people to
Uh,
know what you guys really did. How did basketball start from you, and what age was it that you first started?
Honestly, I was more of a late bloomer. I didn't come up, first grade, second grade. It really started for me in the later stages of grade school, probably seventh grade, I want to say. Um, I had guys in the school that played in CYO team, and they just talked me into playing because we played on the playground, in school together. And that was
Mhm.
back when St. Teresa's was actually a school in our neighborhood. But I started playing there and kind of fell in love, and then had a hoop up in our alley of my, behind the garage. Started really going from there. And then, you start playing playground ball. Majority of my teaching from street ball was over at the Frederick Douglass Center, just a half court hoop, but had some amazing players there that I looked up to and started idolizing and really fell in love with the game from that point forward.
Yeah. So when did you know after you started playing that, man, I can really do something with this? When did you see your game elevating?
Honestly, it was when I transitioned. My first 2 years in high school, I went to St. John's, and it was challenging for me at that time. Wasn't much playing time, and I made a decision to switch over to Bowser. And once got under the coaching of Coach Kroll, Dick Kroll, and even with the players that I was surrounded with, guys that are still good friends of mine today. At the same time, Tim Petaway, well, I should say Reverend Petaway now. um, we both transitioned over to Bowser at that time, and just playing with those group of guys and the amount of confidence and courage that they kept giving me, the more playing time that I got, and the more that I was kind of getting into the whole process. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. The It really kind of went on from there, that a couple of good games, and started getting looks from a couple of coaches. And it's when college coaches, even at the D3 level, just the interest that they had really boosted the
Yeah.
level of confidence, and it kind of went from there to progress.
What school did you end up going to, and why did you choose that? What made you choose that to be a school that you was going to attend for college?
It was Hillsdale College. So Hillsdale College is a private Division II college up in Michigan, and heavy recruitment from their coach, knowing that it was a smaller school where academics was really a heavy focus for my family, my mom and my dad, to make sure that I was going to get an education.
Yeah.
There were multiple schools that offered full rides, but this one paid more attention to what I would get academically, and smaller class sizes, more direct, interaction with the professors. That's kind of what appealed to me. But also, at the time, another one of our great Toledo athletes, Dale Allen, uh,
Hmm.
he was going to school there, was going to be graduating that next year, and had a talk with him. And for all the same reasons, it was the right fit for him, became the right fit for me. So that's basically why I chose to go there. I knew that not only would it be on a team that had already, back that time, they were a NAIA elect
Yeah.
school, and they had just went fourth in the nation the year previous. So I knew I was stepping into a winning, environment, a team, a good, well-coached team. So that was the biggest pull there to make me want to go to that school.
When did you have that mentality where you were thinking about the grades and not just basketball? Here you have some people going to the school just for the basketball program. They might not even know what the school got to offer them academically, but when did that get implemented inside of you to know that I need to make sure this education is good? I need to make sure the academics is where I need it to be.
Yeah. I'm gonna be straight up with you because I'm always 100% you're real. You know, Academically going through high school, I was not the best student. It wasn't that I couldn't learn. It wasn't that I couldn't keep up with the work. I just was all over the place. Lack of focus. To the attention to the details. And when I had that fear going into the end of my senior year that I may have to potentially not graduate, which would ruin the scholarship, that made me get focused. I mean,
Yeah,
I did what I had to do at the ending of that year. It really just was going to probably be a matter of having to go to summer school or whatever, but I just needed to be on point with, I come from a large family, as you well know. Uh,
yeah,
all of my predecessors of cousins, went on to college, and did well. I needed to fall in that same, step, was kind of the expectation. So as soon as I got that focus that I had to buckle down and focus in on grades and really determine what potentially would have to be my life outside of basketball. You only go into school for 4 years. You got to have a direction in a career. You know, Fortunately, I had some good people around me to talk to, about that, not only externally, but internally in the family. I have cousins that play professionally overseas, and one was even drafted in the NBA, from the Battles family.
yeah.
Um, Talking to those guys really gave me the right focus and what I needed to do, not only on the court, but what I had to prepare for off the court. So I think that was the biggest thing, is saying, hey, I'm going here for the education, and basketball needed to be secondary, and kind of took off from there.
Yeah. How was the journey with you adapting to the college game versus the high school game? Did it take you a couple years? Did it take you a year?
Honestly, it the biggest adjustment was I was going in at 6'7" and only weighing about 165 pounds. So I went from high school playing down in the hole in the center and a little bit of forward, to immediately having to guard, guards and forwards, and still even playing the center role as well. So the transition was, everybody will tell you, bigger, faster, stronger. You got to
Yeah,
make sure that, your game is on point with that. And I had a lot of confidence in my game, and it showed. So I was able to play uh, through the first half of the season as kind of the sixth man. But during the going in the second half, I moved into a starting role, and the biggest transition was being able to sustain physically. That's a hard thing. But off the court, the biggest transition for me was, I was in a school that, again, academically, uh, being academically disciplined was a requirement, and having to balance that student and athletic life, that was the biggest challenge, where, again, it went to my benefit going to a school like that, because they readily were there, professors and everyone. Any help I needed, any additional assistance was always readily there for me. But I had to, try to stay on point for both ends, on and off.
yeah. And it's good that you chose that to make that decision to go hard and to make sure academics number one. Because sometimes, like we deal with a lot of the youth now and a lot of the young players, they on that edge and they don't really know that this could be mess up your future. This could be like devastating, you not being able to make that adjustment. Here you said,
Exactly.
I don't want to not graduate. I want to. So you turned it on and it helped push you to, where you at today and even to get you through that. What would you say to the late bloomers in high school now, maybe starting off junior year or maybe even senior year? What motivation could you give them to be able to know that it's not too late and you still can go to school and you still can, be a good player?
Yeah, I think that the biggest motivation to you is that a kid has to put within themselves is just that. Are you going to wait for somebody to motivate you, or are you going to motivate yourself? You know, everybody always, says, even when you look at it from a faith standpoint, people pray for a lot of things. You know, I liken it to a joke about, somebody praying to God about wealth. Well, it's the same thing with sports. All of us, anybody who's a basketball player that has larger aspirations of making it to the league, they always say, I keep my faith in God. I just keep praying. If I keep praying, you know, I'll make it to the NBA. Well, you got to understand, God is up there saying, you keep praying and keep praying, but you got to meet me halfway. You got to put in the work.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, praying will only take you so far if you're sitting on a couch,
yeah,
if you're wishing for it. If you're not out there constantly, when they talk about grinding isn't just picking up a ball and going and shooting. It's understanding that you have some weaknesses in your game. Figure it
yeah,
out, work it out.
yeah,
With a plan on how to handle the rock better, figure out a plan on how to play defense better, and more importantly, understand what your weaknesses are academically, and
yeah,
ask for help. That's the biggest thing that a lot of us falter in is asking for help when we need it. So you can ask a coach for help, but when it comes to a teacher and you're struggling in math or something, seems to be more of a challenge for us to want to get that help or put in the work for doing that. So you got to
yeah,
figure out the motivation for yourself to be able to stand up and want to do more for yourself. So I'd say that that's the biggest thing that I would have to focus on. Figure
yeah.
out who you want to be and where you want to go and go get it.
Yeah, and when you spoke about you coming up and you growing up, and I know even for me, girl, high school, we had community, we had guys that was mentor, we had people that we can look up, we can model and pattern our game at. Today's society, it seems like they're lacking that, and we're lacking the mentorship, they're lacking identity in a lot of different ways. What ways do you think that they can get back to that, where they have somebody to look after, or if they don't have somebody to look after, what should they do to be able to be focused and be on that right path if they don't got that positive real male role model?
Yeah, honestly, you're absolutely right. With us growing up, I had two avenues to look at. Like I said, if I went to the playground playing ball, I had idols that were there, but it was still a safe environment. Yeah, yeah, there was scuffles every once in a while, but guys like Detroit, Tony Mack, um, Reuben Hunt, all of those guys that I looked up to, in my neighborhood playing ball, who went on to do great things in basketball. Um, I had it within my family as well. I
Yeah,
had multiple guys that played ball that I could look up to as role models and see. It's one thing to, hear the words or be able to talk to them. It's another thing to just be able to see how they
yeah,
carry themselves. That's another form of mentorship and being able to make sure people have a positive role model to look at things that they do. But in today's society, to your point, when it's not the same, some places, inner city playgrounds, people say it's a challenge to even get out on the court without, something going, popping off or something like that. But honestly, there's a part of the community that's still there that's never left. Those
yeah,
positive role models are in your church. You
yeah,
know, a lot of people don't understand that outside of the 1 to 2 hours that you do in service on a Sunday, there's a lot of different things that every church involves themselves with. There's still leagues that are church leagues of basketball that go on. There are people that are playing in some of those leagues that have played in high school, but all of them will be positive role models. If you get further involved within the church community, and even if it's not your church, you can seek out, other programs that are like that. That you can find those, or just be in the presence of positive male men that will help shape that person's future.
yeah. Where do you see the state of basketball in today's climate?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question, man. I was just having a conversation. I mentioned Dale Allen. Dale Allen is we're still real, good friends that we keep in touch. And Dale's a person that, even beyond his illustrious college career, he went overseas and played, and then had a long career with Nike. He became the number two guy behind Jordan's brand of
Mm,
um, marketing, his and player interaction and contracts and everything. And we talked just recently about this whole change in the landscape of how you, of course, have to be a good player, but from a team perspective, individuals get lost in the shuffle based on some of the things that were meant to be positives, like NIL,
yeah,
and transfer portals. You know, what gets lost in the shuffle and all of that is all the players who don't have the popularity or may not be the highest recruit because that's where all the focus is. So a team environment consistently is in flux now. You know,
yeah,
players are choosing where they want to go based on the package that they get financially. For it's not even about your 4 year college degree anymore. It's about how much money are you going to help me make while I'm here. And
yeah,
I'm in total agreement that I felt that it was the right move, that players should be compensated for their likeness and any revenue that's being generated on their likeness and things like that. But probably need to be a different approach. But I think that the landscape of basketball right now is going to be consistently in flux. There won't be a consistent power team anymore because players will jump. I just heard, it may be old news to everybody else, but when I heard that the center from Michigan was leaving, going somewhere else, it was like
man,
they were successful. Why is that happening? Well, obviously there's something more to it than just being on a winning team. So coaches are struggling. How do you recruit a team, and then the next year you're recruiting for the same roles for the people that you were building around. So I'm not sure where we're headed, but I just know that, just as someone else said, the product on the court is not going to be the same like it used to be. There won't be consistent powerhouses year after year that have players that are there 2 to 3 years that are dominating. It's going to change.
yeah. And like you said, it starts with individuals wanting to get better. Like Jesse Coleman, Ronell Isom, they started the Pro Am League in Toledo, which is good. Johnny Boy got a league. I know you know John Boy. He got a
Yeah,
league. So they're trying to have their avenues be open up, but the kids have to want it. They have to take advantage of it, and they can't just do it. And then, like you saying, the product is watered down. You got one player on a good team taking all the shots. Now the
right,
team, and a lot of times, well, I was talking to Tori Blanchard. She's opening up, where this is her second year. She has a female league for the girls, the young girls, which is much needed
oh
too.
wow,
But problem is a lot of people are taking the good players off of all the teams and snatch them from the AAU. So now their teammates, they're not developing. So now when they come back in the season start, their game ain't got elevated because they're playing with all the people that's green, so to say.
right.
That's one thing I think could be done too. Having a group of kids come up and stick together and not just go to different schools for the level of competition can be, even instead of one sided. Like when y'all
Right.
came, all type of players that y'all had. Who was some of the great players in when you played?
Well, in my era, like that, the two that I mentioned, separate from, you know, Tony Mack and Reuben Hubbard in my neighborhood. I mean, Dennis Hobson was a couple years behind me, but by the time I was a senior, he was moving up to varsity at that time, as a sophomore. We all know what Dennis went on to do. Even,
Yeah,
other guys like Sean Patterson, he was a teammate of mine, and he went on to do, I mean, not only with just playing, but, his coaching career and everything that he's been doing. But there was, throughout the league, Ski Anderson, he and I and Rob, boy Rob, he and I we left the same year and ended up playing against each other. He went to Siena Heights.
talking
Uh,
about Rob Johnson.
yeah, Rob Johnson.
Yeah,
Yeah, he and I we still keep in touch every once in a while. But Rob Johnson and I we would laugh after every game about where we come from and where we are now and going at it on the court. still try to get each other, but we always were friends back then and are now. But
Yeah.
that's really to that whole point about the dynamic about the loss of team. You know, even with the players at Hillsdale, the players during that period of time, there's a group of us. Probably first of all, our school does an alumni thing, and I see those guys at least once a year. But there's a even the other captains of the team and stuff. I play golf with those guys at least once or twice a year. Even guys from other teams like Saginaw Valley is another school. I see a couple of those guys because they know family members that we have up in Saginaw. I don't know that that dynamic is there anymore. You may know other players because you've played against them, but to say that year after year you got to know them, and then in off season you played together in different tournaments or leagues and things like that, that's another one of those things that I think a lost dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, last question. What does Southside Pride mean to you, being that you from the South End? Because you carry yourself, I love the way you carry yourself and the way you operate. Like nobody would be able to say, "I'm from Toledo." Like, yeah, he from Toledo because you're respectable. Your servitude, being and seeing you serving, seeing you looking out for others and making a way. So yeah, what does that Southside Pride mean to you?
Yeah, no, for me, it's about the village. You
Yeah,
know, I came from a village. My block, it's changed today from what it was back then, but everybody that was on the immediate block, around the block, we all knew each other. Parents knew kids. If you got in trouble, if you was doing something wrong, your parents would probably hear about it before you got back in the house. And so, you kind of. And I grew up in that environment to where, if you came from that type of a family that you respect elders, you did the right things, you always interacted with other people in your community. That just
yeah,
carried on, man. That's what you try to instill now in your own kids and in your own life. Unfortunately, my greater family is dispersed across the country with all of our cousins and everything. I mean, you guys are down in Atlanta now, and I'm up in Chicago. Everybody, we got people everywhere. Um, Being able to keep that same type of family dynamic or village dynamic is not the same, but I think that across the board, anybody from my era would probably say that same thing. The village that they grew up in is what gives them that, makes them who they are and gives you that pride of where you come from. So,
yeah.
truth.
Yeah, well, we thank you for coming, sitting down, having a conversation with us, man. Like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time out. Great
Uh,
player, and I finally got to get an interview with you because, like I said, one of the players that I looked and followed up on the '70s and '80s.
mhm.
Facebook, and I got another interview coming out. Your name will be in it, so I'll tag you because you'll get to hear about you and the different people who names that's in there and a part of just how the page got established and all that. So it's been great, and I really appreciate this.
Hey, it's my pleasure and my honor. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.